This is The Way You Lead, a show for the new era of leaders who are ready to rise. I'm Joshua Church, and every week we explore how to lead from the inside out with strength, heart, and authenticity. Through stories, strategies, and conversations with embodied leaders, you'll gain what you need to lead yourself and others in today's changing world. The way you lead matters, and now is the time to step up. Jamey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is so fun.
Very excited.
I've been excited to talk with you. I mean, this is actually unique because I feel like a lot of people I bring on the show, like John, for example, I've known him for 3 years, and it's like, finally we get to sit down and have this conversation. But with us, it's like I met you 2 days ago for the first time ever, having a real conversation besides a couple DMs on Instagram. And it's been very, very cool to get to know you and to see you in this environment of masterminding and to see your passion come to life and to get to know you a bit. And I'm excited. I have a feeling that we're going to be involved in each other's lives for some time to come. And it's beautiful to be able to sit down and have this conversation now. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's only been a couple days, but my intuition said the same thing. It was like, oh, there was a certain divine reason that we entered each other's lives at the time that we did. And I don't know what that divine reason is yet, but I think one of the beautiful things of life is being able to connect the dots moving backwards.
That's right.
And seeing how those threads seemingly turn into this beautiful web. Don't know what that web is yet, but we'll find out later.
We sure will. And the dots only connect looking backwards. This is the great part, right? Like all we can do is trust. And like the fact that you have that feeling, I have that feeling, I just know for certainty it's like beautiful. It's already incredible. And I can't wait to see, like you said, the dots that connect looking backwards.
Yeah, that's what faith is. Faith is understanding that life and its beautiful stories are told, kind of like armchair quarterbacking.
Yeah, right.
You can always look back and say what the play should have been and how things were good and bad. But faith is knowing that the dots will connect in my favor. Despite there being maybe no evidence that they will in the moment. Yeah,
and I feel like once you have enough dots connect in your favor when you're going through them and you're like, there's no way this can possibly connect in my favor. This is really shitty. This is really tough. And then those dots connect in your favor. You start to build this sense of evidence or this case of evidence and a belief forms that, oh, actually, maybe this too can connect in my favor, right?
I have a rule for that, actually.
Yeah.
It's called my 18-month rule. So I refuse to look at any negative thing that happens in my life. That could be when I've lost jobs, that could be when I've lost clients, that could be when personal relationships turn sour, whatever it is. I refuse to judge that as a negative thing until 18 months have passed.
Oof.
Because every single time the worst moments in my life have occurred, 18 months later, when I look back at those threads and those dots, I am better because of the bad thing that occurred. It's never failed. And so every time I go through something really challenging or something where my own resolve internally is tested, I get grounded in the fact that I know if 18 months from now I will be happy because of this, then why can't I be happy because of it right now?
Drop the mic. Okay, this podcast is over. I think that's it. That's what everybody needed to hear.
That's like
so
the one thing I want to do.
That's so good. Yeah. And I also feel that it often happens, it depends what it is, but it often happens a lot quicker than 18 months, right?
Yeah.
And that's a great time frame, 18 months, a year and a half. Sometimes it can happen longer too. I'm sure it can take a lot longer for certain things to happen, but it can often take a lot quicker than that, especially when you're looking for it. And when you go through life in that way to look for those things, then it changes everything. So give me an example of one of those 18-month, where one of those times where you applied the 18-month rule that's top of mind or something that's been more impactful in your journey.
The most profound example of it was when I was 19 years old, I lost my closest friend to suicide. And it was the hardest experience of my entire existence. There's not a day that, even though that was 2016, we're 9 years later, there's not a day I haven't thought about it and thought about him, even now. But
what was his name?
CJ.
CJ.
And I distinctly remember 18 months after the fact, even before then, 6 months after the fact, I was asked to make a video to commemorate his life for charity, so that we had this big gala, and we're from the capital city of Canada, and there was a lot of politicians there and some pro athletes, and it was this charity that I was involved in after his passing to raise money for mental health. And we were asked to make this video to commemorate his life, and I'd never really done that. We'd made little mountain bike videos together, him and I, and some of our friends, but nothing serious. And I gathered up all the Snapchat memories, all the SD cards, all the hard drives, everything of all the content that all my friends ever recorded of him. And he was a musician, so we took his music and we turned it into this little thing. And it was a video that I wanted people to see the other side of him that wasn't depressed, that saw the athlete, that saw the musician, that saw the brother, that saw the friend, that saw the human being that I got to know so intimately. And I remember we made this video and we premiered it. And there were certain parts of this video where I was like, I hope people laugh right here. I hope people cry right here to see how beautiful he was. And I was thinking of the emotions that I wanted the other person on the other side of it to experience. And I remember when we premiered this in September of 2016, people laughed where I wanted them to laugh. They cried where I wanted them to cry. They stood still where I wanted them to just be patient. And shortly after it, a gentleman came up to my friend's mother and said that he was so moved by the video that he decided to put his villa up for auction in Barbados that he wasn't planning on doing. It just like for it was a silent auction, and he put a 1-week vacation up at his villa. Sold for $7,000.
Wow.
And I realized that if I didn't make this video, we wouldn't have, and it was my friend Ben and I, we made it together. If we didn't make this video, $7,000 to a cause we care so deeply about for mental health in our city wouldn't have been raised. And I made a commitment that night that I am going to make videos that make people feel emotions, that emotion leads them to some sort of decision that changes their life. It could be something as simple as hitting the subscribe button of somebody's YouTube channel. It could be something as complex as submitting themselves to a donation to a charity that we're trying to promote. But every single week since then, I've made videos. And 18 months after CJ's passing, I booked a trip around the world with my camera, learning how to tell stories for myself. I learned Premiere Pro. I learned Adobe Lightroom. I learned the basics of cameras. I got to go see Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, and Australia by myself. I went to Chile with some friends in South America for the first time. I found my passion, which was telling stories. And I found it to be something that I knew that I would never want to stop. And maybe I would have discovered picking up a camera and telling stories at some point. I think it's something I gravitated towards already. But I don't think I would have fell in love with it as deeply as I did had he not passed. And since then, it's completely transformed my life. I've moved countries. I've traveled to many countries. My business partnership, that's like a business brotherhood, started because he wanted to connect with videographers. Every fabric of my being today is attached to the camera. And I was given that gift through death. And when I realized that through the darkest and most challenging moment of my life, I was also given its greatest gift to this point, that the 18-month rule has to be true. Because I was like, no breakup is going to be harder than this death.
Right.
So if this is what may be the most difficult thing I ever experienced during my life, hopefully, at least, then I should probably have a rule about this. And that's how it started, was around like 2017, 2018. I was reflecting on how much purpose I had in my life that I didn't have before. And it was because of how I handled the darkest time in my life.
Yeah. Oof, so good. And it revealed that dark night for you, revealed the gifts that you have and gave you the opportunity to bring them to the light.
That's why we met. Yeah. If I didn't pick up the camera, I wouldn't be here in Sedona today.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't have met John. I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have connected with Ty and Ellie.
As
deeply as I have.
How did you meet John, by the way? I don't know if I know this.
So we have a mutual friend, Joey Spears.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Joey.
I don't know Joey, not yet. I'm sure I will.
Joey's a Canadian living in California.
And he's a mutual between you and John, so I definitely will know Joey at some point.
And Joey, I actually haven't met Joey in person, funny enough. But he's like an internet friend. And we connected a long time ago, and I helped him with some consulting stuff. And he was like, man, my friend John could really use your help. He's trying to, kickstart his TikTok and change it up a bit. And so we connected, and it actually started off me and John in a working relationship where I was consulting on his social media. And then we just really hit it off. Yeah. Recorded a podcast in Miami together a couple years ago, and we just maintained contact ever since.
So good, and just became boys.
Yeah.
So one of your other rules for life you shared on the first night that really touched me, was stuck with me. I'd love for you to share as well around the movie of your life that you're making. Can you share more on that?
I live my life under a pretty simple guiding principle, and it's a question. And that question is, what can I do today to improve the quality of my memories? And I inherently believe that at some point my life will flash before my eyes, and I want it to be an Oscar-worthy film. I want it to be the greatest film I ever watched, full of so much love, so much laughter, so much, so many lows that then led to so many highs, just like every great story. I want to see all of it, every moment, and just be overwhelmed with the endorphins that come through of the life that I've lived, the wild life that I've gotten to pursue. And I truly believe that it is my responsibility to live each day and each week and each month. Just go try and find a frame in that film. Whether that's a smile that somebody gave, whether that's a dinner where we all laughed, whether that's one particular little moment, just go find something. Go do something to go make this movie and this film of my life better. That's the only film that I'm the only one that's going to watch.
Right.
And it's my responsibility to be its director and its screenplay and its producer, and I take that very seriously.
And the main character.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you'll be the audience too.
Yeah,
all of it.
Yeah,
that's
it's the one film that we're all going to be the director, the producer, the main character, and the audience for.
The protagonist, the antagonist, right? It's all wrapped up. That's really good. I like that framing as well of like a question to ask myself at the beginning of the day, really at the end of the day. What was a frame today that's going to make the movie? And oftentimes it's like it could be the simple moment of just like presence, sitting looking at the tree or the sunset yesterday. Like that's a scene, that's a moment. In addition to how many other moments we had in conversations and breakthroughs and clarity and business upgrades and all those things. But like oftentimes it's the simple moments. And so if at the end of the day I'm reflecting on that question of like what was a frame that will be added to the movie, then it will rewire me to go through the day looking for those frames. And what a beautiful frame to be looking at life through and interacting with life through.
Yeah, it's my favorite framework.
There you go.
To look through life. Yeah, it's I think a lot of it really did stem from the passing of him.
Yeah,
I became so passionate about life because it was mental health. I wanted to commit to a life that I loved so dearly.
Yeah,
and that was such a core tenet of my being. How can I live today so beautifully rich? And that's not a money question. That's a relationship question. That's a relationship with myself question. That's so many different parts of me. And I truly believe that memories are the only thing we keep.
I love it, man. Thank you for sharing. And now that we've navigated a little tech glitch, you told the most incredible story, so I'm going to ask you to share it again now. But one of the questions I just asked you as you were talking about kind of the impact that CJ had left on you and the dark night turning into something that actually was really a light for you and really bright for you. The question I asked is, what is your relationship with CJ now, and how has that evolved?
He's the reason I'm not an atheist today. And there was a moment that occurred in May of 2016 that I can't explain using science. I can't explain using logic. I can't explain using any of the tests and theories that we can run with. And it converted me instantly away from being the most hardcore of atheists. There was nothing you could say that would convince me that there is something beyond what we see, touch, feel, and experience. I was that guy. I was like Richard Dawkins level atheist. And I would have defended it.
Yeah.
And I never thought that in a split moment I would be converted away from that permanently. And so what happened was in May of 2016, I think it was about 6 weeks after he passed away, another one of my closest friends admitted himself to the same hospital that CJ attended for the same reason. Because he too wanted to not exist with us anymore. And I got the text from him directly. I think he texted me and just his parents. And he told me. And I was shocked. I was stunned. I felt a lot of love for him. And my brain just went all over the place. I kept thinking to myself, is this going to happen again? Am I going to have to eulogize another human being that I love so dearly? Am I strong enough to deal with another loss? Why do I have to keep dealing with friends that want to just leave this earth that I think is so beautiful? What is the difference between me and them? We grow up in the same places. And I'm just going through so many thoughts, and I can't wrap my head around any of this. I'd never been so confused ever. And so eventually I just said, let's quiet the mind and drive to the hospital and meet him there. And so I drive there thinking all of these thoughts. So much is racing through my mind. And I get there around 8:30 at night. And I remember the only thing I wanted my friend to experience with me was just love. It was just that I showed up here because I love you. And because I want you to know that despite how you might feel, despite all the things that are telling you you're not worthy, that you don't deserve this, or people don't love you, I do. And I'll be here, and I'll stand by your side as long as it takes and as long as it needs, and I will always do that. And so I'm in there, and I'm just by his side, trying to make him laugh, trying to think of other things than just all the thoughts that must be racing through his mind. Just trying to get him to get out of this and into this. And around 3:30 in the morning, I could tell he was finally asleep. And I knew he wouldn't have fallen asleep unless I helped and we worked together getting him to a calm state of mind. So he gets into a calm state, so much so that he could rest his eyes and try his best to wake up the next morning refreshed. Once I knew that he was totally for sure asleep, I left. And then what I had no idea is that this drive home would completely transform my entire relationship with myself and spirituality, God, and everything. So I go into my car feeling all of these emotions. So much is processing through my mind. And I decided the only logical explanation, or the only logical thing and solution that I could do to manage my emotions is to leverage music. I love using music to feel things. And I put on the best playlist I've ever made that I still listen to this day with 500 songs deep, Feels. It's just emotional music of all kinds of emotions. Many of the emotions I still to this day haven't felt myself, but I appreciate the artists that have recorded themselves going through those moments and turning it into art that we can share. So I drive home and I'm listening to these songs and it feels so heavy. Like the weight of the world is upon my shoulders. I'm dealing with death, potentially in my mind what could be another one. What can I do to prevent this? Can I prevent this? Is it my responsibility to prevent this? If this happens, I'm telling myself, do not feel guilty. It is not your responsibility. You have to be there for everybody else. But at the same time, I'm thinking, but who's there for me? All these thoughts are going through my head. And then I'm like, should I even be thinking about the potential of one of my friends dying? But one of my friends did just die. And like all these things, I don't know how to feel. It's the most confused I've ever felt. For those few minutes and moments while I'm driving back, the Feels playlist just grounded me centered. And I remember reminiscing and thinking of CJ's funeral. And I was standing next to the casket, walking it up, and I was reminiscing on the fact that Space Oddity by David Bowie was the one song that was chose to commemorate his life. And I thought about that concept very broadly and introspectively, where you have one song to celebrate and commemorate an entire human being's existence. That's it. And usually the person that passes away doesn't tell you what song they want. Someone that loves them has to choose that and has to think of something that represents them, something that they loved, something that's appropriate for the moment, all these things. And I'm like, what a crazy thing.
Yeah.
And in no grim manner, I asked myself, well, something happened to me. What song would it be? And a song came on, and I instantly said, probably this one. So I'm driving, and I'm listening to this song, and it's a slow, melodic, very beautiful, powerful song. It's really just a man and a piano. And as I'm driving, eventually I pull up to my driveway. There's still quite a bit left in the song, and I told myself, just sit here and listen to the whole thing. Don't leave just yet. So I park the car, I sit down, and I remember I crossed my arms like this. I tucked my chin into my collarbone, deep into my neck, I closed my eyes, and I decided just to feel the moment of the music. Just let it happen. Just be there and sit with it. And I swear on my life, my hands are crossed just like this. I am not touching a thing. I am not touching the steering wheel. I am not touching any knobs anywhere. I am completely away from my phone, all of it. And I remember, as I'm sitting like this, and I'm listening to the song, the volume on its own, without me touching anything, went from 25% to 95%. And I remember hearing this and my eyes opened. And I looked and I stared at the console and I actually saw the meter of the volume increasing. I'm stunned. How is this happening on its own when I am not doing anything? This never happened before. And I will never forget when things changed because a voice interjected into my mind. And it said, Jamey, you need to pay attention to the next lyrics. That was not me. That was not Jamey that came through. Something else did. I know when it's my own original thought. And I swear on my life, the lyrics of this song finish themselves and repeat themselves twice. And it says in the most beautiful and poetic way, and you will not be alone. And that song is Now Comes the Night by Rob Thomas. I grew up a huge Rob Thomas fan. In fact, after CJ's death, I listened to a lot of Matchbox 20 and a lot of Rob's music because I just really connected with it and connected with an artist that put so much of his soul into it. And also, I'm white. A lot of white people like Matchbox 20. So I was just blown away. And in an instant, the atheism had escaped me. And I was maybe not some God-believing or God-fearing man. It took some time to really open up my spirituality. But I was agnostic. I was open to the idea that something else was out there. And not only that, but the following song that came on immediately after was Stand By Me. And I got a message from my friend the musician, the one who recorded albums, who made so much music, who spent so many hours in his basement playing the drums, the keyboard, the guitar, singing, writing music. The guy that was through and through an artist came through and used the most beautiful language that we have, the one that he was the most fluent in, and it wasn't English, it was music. And he spoke to me. And it's the most beautiful gift he could have given me. And I think it was only possible to be given that from the other side.
Yeah.
I look at life through such a different lens. I look at how I interact with all of my friends so differently than had that moment never occurred.
Yeah.
I don't think I actually would have transitioned from atheism if that didn't happen. The spiritual path that I've gone down, standing here in this beautiful place, actually feeling the spiritual essence of Sedona and knowing that I can label that the sensation I'm feeling is not scientific.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, but it's certainly deeper than that. Right here, sitting across from you, knowing that we're sharing that same energy.
Yes.
I don't think that the quality of this conversation would have been as deep had that moment not occurred.
Oh, totally.
And I owe him so much for it.
Blessing. What a beautiful blessing. What a beautiful gift to receive from him and to have your openness to receive it. And I'm curious, what snowball did that start rolling down the hill for you? And like, in what ways from that moment did other things shift in your life? Because that seems like a pretty paradigm shifting moment.
It was a slow transition. And when I say slow, I mean multiple of years.
Yeah. Like
the idea of being spiritual didn't actually begin until I came to the United States, which was 3 years ago. I didn't really, as a Canadian living in Canada, I didn't have a spiritual relationship, but I was always open after that point. And when I finally did come to the US, I started looking at things more like signs. There was an energetic shift once I left the nest. And it was because of the seed that was planted from that night. One of the most insane stories and synchronicities I've ever experienced, I think, I would have not looked at as a spiritual encounter. I would have just called it
Coincidence. Yeah.
And that was in February of 2022. I came to Los Angeles to meet some of the clients that I had worked with and started working with and everything. And one of them, and he knows this story, I'm going to shout him out. San Diego is where we spent a lot of time together. They're built there, their company, Chris Cunningham.
Shout out Chris.
And so we made a video together and he posts it. And it was like made on the spot, distributed on the spot. And we posted this video and it starts getting instantly a ton of traction. And we're at dinner at the London Hotel in West Hollywood. And he starts showing me his DMs. He's like, Jamey, look at all these DMs. I have about 30 people. And almost all of them are asking me, who made this for you and how can I get in contact with them? He's like, in my DMs alone, there is so much money for you. But the thing is all of it is here in the US. It's not for you in Canada. And so I really encourage you to think of not going back. I was supposed to be in LA for 7 days. It was February 2nd to 9th. That was the exact trip that I was supposed to have. At the exact moment that he shows me these DMs and is pressing me to cancel my flights and hire a lawyer and move my entire life from one country to the neighboring one for the land of opportunity, Ryan Reynolds walks past our table. Now you might be like, oh, LA, Ryan Reynolds, pretty typical. Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. Ryan Reynolds spent much of his life in my hometown. Ryan Reynolds, I would go as far to say, is the most famous person to ever come from my hometown, move to Los Angeles, start a career, and be an entrepreneur. So at the exact moment that I am being faced with, I should move out of my hometown, I should move to Los Angeles, and I should go pursue my entrepreneurial dreams to the fullest, the most famous and most successful person to ever do that from where I'm from is standing right there. I would have looked at it as a little coinkydink.
Yeah.
That was spiritual divine intervention. I've been in the United States for 3 years since.
Yeah.
And I looked at that as like, that is divine intervention into my life that I need to go pursue the man that I'm supposed to be. And so the whole CJ stuff, it showed up in little moments like that.
Right.
Some were big, some were others. But I look for life through the lens of synchronicities that intervene in my life, that are evidence of the spiritual realm, that are evidence of God. And I use that to inform the decisions that I make, the calls that I make, the bold transitions that I make in my life. That was one of the key quantum leaps that I took, but it wouldn't have happened had I not had the intervention of CJ coming to me in my car through music.
So good. Yeah, so it's that openness. It felt like that moment with CJ in the car was like this kind of crack open, this openness now, and now this curiosity of like, oh, well, what else is possible?
It was like it took the shades off of my eyes that I didn't know were there. I had no idea that I had these spiritual blinders on my soul, that I was looking at the world through a purely logical, maybe I'm just a Virgo, but purely logical and scientific lens. And it just removed that instantly. And it opened up the horizons for so much more that my life could be, finding so much more meaning in every conversation, every human being that I met. I don't believe in accidents anymore. I believe in everything as some form of a coincidence.
Yeah.
Or some form of an on-purpose event that is supposed to happen for you.
Yeah, everyone carries a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
How do you look at life now? How do you interact with life now?
What I love is anytime somebody asks me, how are you? I have a default answer, and it's life is beautiful. And I don't say that just to have it as a default. I say it because I genuinely believe it. I think life is such a beautiful thing. And I've seen the dark side of life. I've seen how depression can wreck a man from the inside out, and how it can take away the entire essence and fabric of his being and just remove it. And I've also experienced the opposite. I've experienced what it's like to wake up and smell the fresh air of somewhere abroad and be so excited at the sound of the birds that are chirping that I don't know what species they are. I'm an animal nerd, but I'm just excited to start my day in this random place. And I love novelty. I love relationships. I love just the fact that I get to experience all of the fruits of life, from having a great sense of sight to touching things and actually knowing how to feel them, knowing that I have 4 limbs and a brain that functions great, that I have the greatest friends you could ever possibly imagine. I think all of that And that gratitude became so easy to have because now I'm spiritually grounded. And now I truly believe that nothing is an accident. Like, spirituality has completely transformed my life.
How, and in what other ways?
Recently, I think, or not recently, I'd say one of my favorite habits, as I was telling you before, is my synchronicity journal. And I use synchronicities, which aren't just little things like, does it say 333 on the time? That's pretty standard. That's, I'd say, first layer of synchronicities. But I started writing down all of the crazy things that would happen and using them as evidence that I'm on the right path. The more frequently I see synchronicities, the more I believe I'm on the path that I'm destined to be on. And so I had one yesterday, very simple. And I said to Christina, and I was like, when we were on the hike, and I was like, oh, this really makes me miss mountain biking. The instant I said mountain biking, a mountain biker appeared. We hadn't seen a biker the entire time until I said it, and then it was presented in front of me. That's a little synchronicity. And it's allowed me to stay more grounded. It's allowed me that when I am really stressed, when my business is falling apart, when I lose clients, when I don't know if we're going to be able to pay staff, when I don't know if I'm going to pay rent, when I don't know if I can pay myself, when I don't pay myself and everyone else on my team gets paid and I'm left like kind of struggling financially because of some of the things that's going on in the business, I don't fret because I know that this is part of the plan of my story. I'm supposed to go through these things. And I also recognize that every great story has the times of trials and tribulations. The fact that you are sitting across from me and the fact that you had this multi-million-dollar business and lost it makes your arc so much more interesting once you build the next thing that you're going to build. Because maybe this is me just saying this for you, but that was supposed to happen for you. And I'm sure you believe that as well. And that probably gives you so much faith in yourself, knowing that maybe Edge wasn't the path that I was supposed to take, but it was the professor that was supposed to teach me the lessons for the next thing.
That's right. It was the stepping stone.
Spiritual faith gives me that when all the evidence says that I shouldn't be excited. I shouldn't be proud. I shouldn't be any of that.
Yeah, and what I love about your approach to it as well is that you are actively building that belief and practicing that through looking for those things. The synchronicity journal, as we were talking about earlier, about like what is a frame that I can add to my movie, to the movie that is my life today. You're actively looking for those things. How are the dots connecting as I look backwards? How did that thing that seemed shitty, how did that end up becoming a blessing for me? And that's what I find inspiring about your story is like that's coming from someone who was an atheist and someone who didn't believe in anything out of what can be measured and seen and felt, right? And what's so inspiring to me about that, and you've put the work in as well, but through quality reps and through seeking to see things the way that we want to see them, we can build these new habits and these new beliefs, and that can transform our entire sense of reality.
Yeah.
Powerful.
It is. And I think it's also the antidote to anxiety. So anxiety is most present when there's uncertainty. The more uncertain you are, the more anxious you will feel. But to me, the antidote of anxiety and anxious thoughts is faith. If you are so grounded in your faith, and that could be in a higher power, or even atheists can have faith, but that faith has to be inward. If you have so much faith in yourself that you can resolve all the problems that are in front of you, that you can truly be the kind of man or woman that can be given a shit sandwich and turn it into a delicious Reuben, a piece of art. It's given me that. It's given me this thing where I don't feel like I feel like I'm completely immune to feeling too terrible. It's not to say I won't feel bad.
Right. And that's the thing that I love is that like that wasn't just like you're not just someone who that was your default or you just wake up like that or it's just the way that you see things or it's like that is a shift, and if that shift is possible within you, it's possible within other people, which is inspiring. Yeah the thing you said too about the story and the arc of going through the challenge is one of the things that just kept I kept on repeat, and it's so important to have the others around you that are also on that wavelength, because when you can't see it yourself, you need to borrow some belief from other people around you. So one of the people that I borrowed belief from the most throughout the challenges of losing edge was our head of sales and my best friend Chad Sonkin, and he and one of the things that we kept telling each other is like, the audience is at the edge of their seat right now. Like, this is where the story gets good. They're like, what's he gonna do next? Like, this is why, like, they've just refilled their popcorn and they've got their soda refill and they're like at the edge of their seat. Like, this is the point of the story. The story is good because of the conflict.
Yeah.
Like, that's what creates the full spectrum of life and living, is the story that we tell. And Alex Ramosi says this all the time, but of zooming out that time horizon to be like, I will tell the story one day. Like, and that helps so much with whatever present struggle when I'm going through, however big or however small, is like, I will tell this story one day. And in 18 months, using your 18-month rule, and within 18 months, I will see an abundance of blessings that this can lead to. And even if I can't see that now, or if that's too much of a stretch, I can soften into that by saying, maybe this will lead to something good. Maybe. What if this could lead to something good? And I can stay open to the possibility, because some things can happen that are just so horrendous that it's a reach to be able to say, I know this will. The more things you go through and the more things I've gone through, the more I found that belief is strong. And it's like, I know, like going through edge, it's like, I know this is going to work out, but some things can happen that really just shake you. And if you don't have that belief right away, stay open to the possibility. What if this could lead to something good? Maybe in 18 months from now, I could look back and see how I can be grateful for this.
I can't wait for when it comes to 18 months post the shutdown of Edge to hear what you have to say.
I mean, this is me at 6 months, not even 6 months.
How do you feel 6 months after?
It's the biggest blessing that's happened to me, all in all.
So the society would say,
right, the
worst thing that has ever happened to you,
right,
you would say is the best.
Absolutely.
Why?
Yeah. Because I now have, it was a framing that shifted, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, but as long as I was attached to the idea of Edge being this like $1 billion company, and which I saw the potential and I felt it. It's like we had it. It felt like we were so close, and I was like kind of holding on to, like, we were so close. We were right there. We had the team, we had the brand, we had the partnerships, we had the community, and there was a few things that we fell short on, and some mistakes that we made, and things that were within our control, a lot out of our control, but things were within our control, of course. And it was like, as long as I was holding on to this idea of like, this was my shot, like this was it, then it felt like a failure objectively. Like we lost we lost investor money, and we had to shut down, and we were no longer service. Like, we failed objectively as a business. But for me, as soon as I shifted to, well, what if this was just an accelerated course of learning? What if this was my MBA that I needed that's preparing me for the next thing? What if this was a way for me to build my network, to build my skill set as a leader, to be able to build a team of 15 employees, and to be the person that I need to be, and to show myself what's possible? Like, what if that was what Edge was actually meant here to be, to then give me the most amount of learning in the shortest amount of time and then send me on my way? Then holy shit, what a success Edge was, right?
And we've been talking a lot, particularly you, throughout this entire experience here in Sedona, is what would it be like if you dreamed big, or if you dreamed bigger, or if you just really allowed yourself to be as expansive as humanly possible? What if Edge wasn't a big enough dream? Yeah.
Bingo. That's that hits for sure. And I know for a fact, and part of the reason why now, especially, I had that initial perspective of rationalizing, like, okay, I know this is a stepping stone. Maybe this is what's meant for me to have learning, and I'll go on. But that was kind of like more of the first level perspective. And then in this next phase of the second level perspective, which came a couple months after, which is where I'm really sitting in now, is like, I really feel like God was like, come on, dude, it's time to get on to like what you're really here for. And I also see that very clearly, because, we would have been continuously struggling and kind of just trying to fight to that profitability mark where most businesses are. And I'm tied to that business. I have investors, I have friends, I have family, I have athletes, people that are invested into this company. And like, I can't just walk away. And it would have gotten to the point and probably not the too distant future where I'd be sitting here and I would be like masterminding, not about this next chapter and what I'm excited about and the impact that I can create, but I'd be masterminding about how the hell do I make this business fun again? How do I get out of this business? How do I, I'm doing 5% of the things that I really feel called to do and what I want to do. And the rest is like dealing with bullshit and is like running a hardware company. I'm not meant to be a CEO of a hardware company. Like I know that for a fact. And that's where it was kind of headed and becoming. And so at least the majority of my time was focused on that and less was focused on the stuff that I really feel called to be here for. It was still present, but it was a minority time. And so what I feel like is God was like, yo, okay, I need you on your primary mission now. Like you got what you needed from here. Come on, here's a little kick in the ass because you can't shut this down on your own. And like, you're going to need me to shut it down for you. And like, you can't walk away from this on your own. So like, this is still the path of least resistance, even though it doesn't feel that way. And I do believe that because I do believe that the vision and in its form, the form could not express the full function of what I feel like I'm here to do. It could only go so far.
Having gotten to know you over the past couple days, I see you more as the CEO of spiritual software than the CEO of hardware.
Love that. I appreciate that.
Like
Thank you.
upgrading people's internal software.
Yes. Yep.
Through tools like breathwork,
Yep.
through things like this. I see that as being more of a calling for you.
Ooh, thank you, man. I love that. The operating system, the spiritual software. That's good. That's good. I like that. Thank you, man. I'm going to take that.
Yeah, take it.
I'm going to take that and run with that. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk with you about is, I mean, you're just so brilliant. There's a great display of that is like your genius zone of it. It's been awesome, as I said, just to see it in action here with your ability as a storyteller. Everybody listening clearly knows that by now as well, but your storytelling capability, your ability to evoke emotions through storytelling and videos. It sounds like the video you made for CJ was that first kind of aha moment and just generally, but was that something that you did you always have that natural ability? Did you develop that? Did you learn how to tell stories? I think you said earlier you're a nervous system conductor. What did you say?
Nervous system DJ.
Nervous system DJ, right? Of being able to make people feel certain things. Like tell me more about that and that is a skill that you've learned.
Yeah, so I think naturally oration and communication has been laughably easy most of my life. I remember if I had a presentation, I refused to use cue cards. There was one time I had a teacher, loved Miss Vanessa, and she was like...
Shout out to Miss Vanessa.
Yep. And she was like, I'm marking you guys on your cue cards. And I went up to her after class, and I was like, Miss, I need you to understand that's going to hurt me more than it will help. When I feel like I really know something, I'd rather just talk about it and find the path through my own language than feel like I'm trapped into a structure of these cue cards. She looks at me, she's like, it doesn't matter. I'm marking you on these. And so I was like, oh crap, I got to use cue cards. And I show up to class, I do my presentation, and I'm looking at the cue cards, looking up like this, and I hand them into her completely blank.
Nice.
And I was like, I can't do this. And that was when I realized in grade 10, oh, okay, communication is a strength of mine. I may not be good at math, but I felt like in class, like I can out speech you. Yeah. That was like my thing, my little zone. And so the first time I really noticed what I call emotional architecture, which is my ability to inject you with the emotion that I desire you to feel, was actually the eulogy. And as I was commemorating CJ's life, I, funny enough, did have a cue card, but it had 3 things said on it. It was like, this is how you start, this is another point you need to make, and this is how I want you concluding it. But there was nothing. I could not write a speech. And I remember looking out into the church and seeing, I think there was maybe 200-300 people there. We're looking at everybody, and I just noticed so many people crying. And I was like, I got to make you laugh. Because I just got to cut through that tension. I was like, I can't. It's hurting me seeing everybody cry.
Right. And
so I would tell a joke, and the whole room would laugh. And then it got to the point where I was like, yo, y'all are laughing too much, though.
Yeah.
I need you crying again. And I remember, then I made them cry. And then I was like, yo, stop crying. I'm not going to get you to laugh just yet, but I want you just silent and locked in on what I have to say. So I figured out what to say and how to say it. And so I would adjust my own pitch and tonality and pacing, and I would do all these different things. If you notice, when I communicate at various different pitches because I want you to I want to affect your nervous system. I want you to understand that when I communicate, I'm not going to use a regular rhythm
Right.
because I want to be easier to listen to. And so I remember thinking of all these things were going through my mind during the eulogy. And it was the most impactful speech I'd ever done in my life. It's what started my journey as a, philanthropist. I was involved and I got sent out to do more speeches to raise money for the Hopes Rising campaign, which I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, because of this ability. And so when I noticed that I was in control of the room's emotions through all the things that I mentioned, from my vocabulary to my tone to my pitch to my pacing to my pausing and everything else, I realized, oh my God, like, why can't I do this in video form? And so video form, I just felt like was communication at mass. Instead of to a room, it could be to the world. And that's how I looked at storytelling and video and everything else. I tell people all the time, I am not the best editor. I am not the best at cinematography. I am very far from that stuff. I'm good at them, but I'm much better at being a communicator and a storyteller and understanding the most important thing that we can do is feel things. If you can get somebody to feel what you desire them to feel, you have power. And you have control over rooms. And you can get investors to want to invest with you.
Yeah.
You can get a girl to want to go on another date with you.
Right.
You can really, really control people, not in a manipulative way, but you understand that there is a way that I desire to have a message perceived.
Right.
And you are in control of that if you have the right tools. And I learned that very early on when I did the eulogy, just by observation, and it kind of just took me down a rabbit hole of wanting to get better at that skill.
Yeah. Wow. And with great power does come great responsibility, because if you had bad intentions, you could, you're talking about motivating people and making them feel what you want them to feel to achieve a result of the people and brands and companies you align with, of the call to action of the sale or donation for your philanthropy or your campaign. Like it's for something beneficial and good. And so I'm guessing that's also part of what's important to you, of aligning with brands or people or creators that are sharing a message that you want to amplify.
Yeah, I feel like the work that I do running accounts on social media and creating content for people is like I empower people to have a megaphone that they otherwise wouldn't have had.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I'm not going to be necessarily the face of their brand, but I can be the megaphone and I can make that louder. And that's a lot of power. And so I love working with people that I feel like are doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
That are in some way making the world better, whether that's the stem cell clinic I work with, where they're, providing incredible medical care and healing injuries that people otherwise would have had to go into surgery and maybe ruin their lives for. Or, just the yachts that I've worked with, allowing people to have some of the most beautiful memories of their life. I always think of what's the deeper meaning in things. So I'm very grounded in my why of what I do, which allows me to just have a bit more presence and care for the work that I'm involved in.
Very good. And speaking of your why, something that's really emerged and become clear that you're stepping into now, which I love. Tell me about Jamey's wild life. Tell me about, by the time this airs, now it's social accountability, so you got to do it at this point. But you have this new vision with what your personal brand is and looks like, and what your why is and your passion is there. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Like I've been saying throughout this entire podcast, I don't believe in accidents. And more importantly, at a deeper spiritual level, I don't believe we accidentally have passions. So if you notice that you're a kid that loves trains, that's not an accident. There's something deeper there. That could be saying you would make an incredible engineer, or maybe you'd make an incredible travel blogger like John that assesses aviation or different modes of transportation. It's something there. And for me, the thing that makes no sense, given my family unit, is my just intense passion for wildlife. I remember when I was 2 years old, so my earliest memories, my mom would get me Legos and I would cry because I was not going to be the kid that would put together things. I was not going to be the guy that was reading instructions and would follow them. That I hated that. She would give me toy trains. Anything mechanical, I hated. But anything animal, I loved. She gave me crocodiles and sharks and orcas that I would play with in my tub, and you couldn't get me out of the tub. And this is at a stage of life where I wasn't programmed. So this is something that was planted within me. This is a curiosity, a passion, and a love that I was gifted with. And I would feel like an idiot to not have the self-awareness to know that since I was born, I've had this intense love for creatures. And I'm not going to do something with it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to expose that to the greatest degree that I humanly can. And in fact, I've been pushing that side of myself aside for so long. And it got to the point with my own business that I was building everybody else's brand but my own.
Yeah.
And when I got a few strikes of evidence, when the first wildlife video I made was on a client's account, not even mine, but it was me talking about a Portuguese man of war, got a couple million views. And then the same client, I made a video about orcas, got a couple million views. And I was like, I never get a couple million views on my content until I started talking about the thing that is most natural to me. And so this next chapter is me committing to stepping into what I genuinely believe is my divine purpose. I'm good at telling stories. I can tell other people how to write hooks and how to grow their social media accounts. That's not my ikigai. That's not what I'm here to do. But I think, and I actually know I'm going to rephrase, I don't think, I believe to the core of my soul that I was put here with a combination of interests and skill sets to make a huge fucking dent in conservation. I am really good with my words. I am really good at storytelling. I understand social media. I've generated probably over 600 million views for other people, not me. And it's time that I take the energy that I put into across probably 50 plus clients over the last couple of years, and I allocate that to me and to the missions that I truly believe in. My genuine goal in life as I get into my 60s and 70s to make so much money that I can buy so much land, that I can protect it and hire military servicers to go out and make sure poachers aren't fucking up the rhinos.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I actually see myself to do. Some people are called for different missions in life. You know, some people are called to get clean water to villages. Some people are called to fix the education system. I'm called for conservation, and I have been since I was a boy. And I think I'd be so silly to recognize that I have these gifts, to recognize that I have this interest, and to not give it 1,000% of my effort and attention. It would just be an absolute waste of my potential.
It sure would. And you're not doing it, so you're not going to waste that potential. You're stepping into it, brother. I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for creating the space, because by the time this podcast comes out, my username has changed from James Life to Jamey's Wildlife.
Yeah.
And the wildlife is a pun on I want to encourage people to live a life that is wild and is on their terms, but it's also my passion for wildlife. I came up with the realization that I wanted to change the username here in Sedona, and thanks to Carly, she gave me the username suggestion because of the space that you created. And so I thank you for that, because I've encountered a shift at the level of identity by coming on this trip.
Oof, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And
for
how
sharing
many
that.
animals are going to be saved because of it?
Oh, let's go. Oh, we're just getting started. How many animals are going to be saved because of it? I love it. Then that's the beautiful part about coming together in a space like this, is the ripple effect and why I love this Project Changemaker that we're just experimenting with right now at the beginning stages of, but is that when you're working with people that have complementary skill sets and also are on purpose with their mission and that true soul's mission, and like the collaborative effort from that is exponential, the impact that we can have together. So grateful for that, and thank you for sharing that.
I want to give you your flowers for a moment, you and John in particular, because the work that you do in creating a space like this, you take powerful people and you give them an opportunity to recognize their gifts, to get past their blockages so that they can go out, be their most authentic selves, and make the biggest difference and change that they can make in the world. And so by you just being your most authentic self, by following your ikigai, you are empowering remarkably powerful people to go out and change the world. And so I think something that I would encourage you to understand, you are never going to know the full impact of what you do. The things that I go out in my life and do, you're not going to see all of that. The things that Ty Nelly gets to do in his life and the founders that he gets to change because of the work and the grounds that you laid over this trip, you're actually not going to see all of his wins. You're not going to see the little things that happen and occur in his life or my life or Christina's life or John's life. And none of us are going to see yours.
Right.
But you guys are the catalysts that allow for the change to be made. That's why it's Project Changemaker. And so I really would encourage you to take a few moments and just understand that the impact that you are having is not just on your life, but when you change and empower somebody who is powerful, who actually can go out there and make ripples in the world, the effects that you have are so much greater than you could ever see.
Thank you, brother. I received that fully. Thank you. Thanks for those flowers.
Of course.
Really, really beautiful. And I believe deep down that when we are on path and aligned with that ikigai, when we are at that intersection of what the world needs, what makes us come alive, what we feel, what comes natural to us, that we give others permission to do the same, and that's what we need. Like that's what the world needs, is more people who have come alive to that, because the permission that we give each other, whether it's subconscious just in the way of being and identity, or it's specific and tactical in the advice or feedback or mind sharing, like that makes the difference. It makes all the difference.
It does.
Yeah. So good. So the ikigai you mentioned earlier, can you explain the concept of ikigai for people that haven't heard it yet?
Yeah, I usually get this 82% of the time. There's 4 parts of it. And so imagine a Venn diagram. Whoever's editing this podcast can show the visuals here. But there's 4 circles, and it's the convergence of all 4 of those circles that come together, which is your ikigai. So there is what you're good at. There's what the world needs, what you can be paid for. I always get the last one wrong. Do you remember it?
Let's look it up.
Yeah.
It's what you enjoy doing, right?
What you enjoy doing,
right?
What the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at.
Yeah.
So it's all 4 of those things coming together. And so if you're missing any of those, it's not truly your best calling.
Yeah.
And that's why I've referenced it so many times. Like, I could be a content coach.
Yeah.
I love consulting.
That's probably 3 of the 4, maybe.
It is, but it's not all 4.
Right.
And that's why, when people push me to go certain directions with my business, I'm like, could I make faster money? Could I make more money? Absolutely. Will I be as fulfilled in what I do? No. And when I'm fulfilled, I do my best work. And when I do my best work, I have my highest potential.
Yeah.
So anything less than my ikigai is me sacrificing something.
Yep.
And not being my most authentic, not being the man that I'm capable of becoming and being. And so I'm very passionate about the topic. It's a Japanese word. I so adore it. And I think for you with Edge, probably wasn't quite the ikigai.
No, it wasn't all 4.
It was probably what you're good at, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely what the world needs.
Yep.
Definitely what you can be paid for.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily what you wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. Not in the fullness of it. It was a part of it. It was elements of it. Yeah, it was maybe, let's say, 50-40% of the way there, which is why it felt tremendous, and I think why a lot of magic happens, because I think when we align and follow that ikigai, magic can happen. Things can happen quickly. Shifts can happen. I mean, the evidence of the couple videos that you did in wildlife that lit you up on the other accounts just blowing up, that magic can happen like that. So it's a great call, and it's a great exercise to go through, is to sit down and list out those things and start to paint a picture of what are those things? What is my ikigai, and how might it evolve? And it evolves over time, but where generally, what direction is it? Is it that direction or that direction? Just starting to move in that direction. One question for you now is, why do you love the wildlife so much?
I think I'm such a believer that you can learn any skill and become good at anything, and you can even learn and develop passions. This is not that. Born with it. I don't know how to explain it. I loved it day one.
Just loved animals.
Day one.
Yeah.
And it was just It's just like a part of me.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Elementary school, read every encyclopedia on reptiles, on mammals, on sharks, on cetaceans, all of it. And I didn't just read them once. From grades 3 to 6, I read them all over and over and over again. I didn't read Harry Potter as a kid.
Yeah.
I read like frogs, you know? Don't know.
It was part. I love that so much.
Yeah.
There's a line that's something like, your God's gift to you. Your what is it? I got to get this right. It's something like your mission is, can I borrow your phone time, Ellie? I want to get this quote. It's so good. This is it. Hold on. Yeah, this is it. Leo Buscaglia. Okay. Buscaglia, Leo. Shout out Leo. Your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God. Right? It's good, huh? So, like, the natural abilities that you have, these are gifts that we receive. That inclination of just being drawn towards wildlife, just being drawn towards learning about these things and whatever it looks like, that's a gift that you've received from God. And now what you do with it, like, that's your purpose. That's your gift back to God. Yeah. And that's your full expression of your humanity. Like, one thing that I love that I learned just recently, a perspective, and I was doing a sweat lodge in Iceland, which is, you know, we are an expression of the universe. We are the universe expressing itself. We are nature experiencing nature, as we talked about yesterday at the sunset. And when we put a mask on ourselves, or we interrupt the flow of our fullest expression of who we are uniquely as individuals, then we are interrupting the universe from expressing itself fully. And it's like we're not letting the wave crash on the ocean. Like, and I think animals are a great way to look at it in the animal kingdom, is like, does the bird question what it means to be a bird, or am I doing a good job being a bird? Or in the plant kingdom, does the tree think, like, what does it mean to be a tree? Or like, how do I be a tree? Or am I taking up too much space? No, it just is a fucking tree. Like, does the sun ask for permission to shine? No, it shines. And we are that too. We are that same way, a unique expression of that in our humanity. And with all of the awareness and consciousness that we have in the society that we live in, and the stories we tell ourselves, we put ourselves in boundaries and put these masks on to protect ourselves. But now, and what I'm passionate about is connecting with the others that are having the courage to take off the mask and, like, allow that expression. So, like, who are you to get in the way of depriving the universe of its own creation? Like you gotta flow, let it flow and let it move through, because you are that expression of the universe, like every single wave is of the ocean. And the natural abilities, following your natural abilities, is the biggest piece of advice that I give to people whenever I'm talking to, you know, students or young kids, or on the conversation of what I do with my life, or what piece of advice do you have, is I'm always come back to: follow your natural abilities. Follow those natural abilities. Follow your curiosity, because that is like that. Those are the whispers. Like, that's the yellow brick road that God's laying out for you. Like that, and you don't need to see the full picture. Like, you probably never could have seen, even when you loved animals when you're younger. Like, how is it possible that I could, like, make an impact with this, or how can I make money out of this, or is there a career for this? It's like, no, vlogging and being a creator didn't exist at that point. So, like, you don't know what you don't know until you do it. But if you get on the path of following those natural abilities, like, it's going to lead to places you never could have imagined. So I am so grateful and so stoked to see you on this path. And, like, I just know, like, I'll put money on it. I'll bet the house on it that, like, you are going to do those things, and, like, you are going to buy those lands, and you're going to get some badass people there to go protect the rhinos from the poachers. Like, you're going to do some cool shit. And because I saw the way that your energy shifted when you started talking about them. So, it gets me so juiced up.
No accidents, bro.
No accidents.
It's not an accident that I was planted this curiosity,
right?
This passion for them.
Yeah.
I can't explain it anything other than just it's in me.
Yeah.
It's a part of me.
Yeah. So for the people that have, I think it's funny because as kids, like most kids, we like animals in some way. Dinosaurs, like animals, they fascinate us because I think there's this childlike, like, curiosity and wonder that we have of, like, look at that animal, like, whoa, like it's easy to get lost in our day to day and in our own mind, but it's like we're part of this planet of other species and animals and interaction. So there's a bit of a magic, and I think an expression of God's creation within that. But for the people that may have, don't think about animals a lot, or just like, this is nature, it's just over there, animals are separate, I'll go to the safari, whatever, ooh, cool, whatever. What are some things about animals that you love to remind people of, or some things that people aren't thinking about that just like blow your mind?
I'll get to my favorite animal because I think it's the best expression of it, but orcas / cetaceans. So cetaceans are dolphins and whales. So I think you can see a lot of humanity in wildlife. And if you look closely enough, you can see some of the same patterns. We kind of all have a very similar operating system. And human beings, we forget that we're animals too. Some people don't even believe that we actually are animals. We're like, no, we're people.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are people?
Homo sapiens.
Humans. What are humans? Homo sapiens. You know, we are actually, and what are Homo sapiens? Apes.
Right.
We are cousins of the chimps.
Yeah.
We are cousins of the bonobos. So if you look at them, you can kind of see, like chimpanzees, for example, you can look at them and basically see humans with no empathy.
Right.
So it's very interesting kind of seeing something that's so similar to you, genetically speaking, but it's missing like the thing that makes us human, which is consciousness, empathy, compassion, and just like a broader intellect.
Yes.
But when I look at orcas, for example, because that's my favorite animal, I look at them, and what most people don't realize is that they have arguably, to some, more complex language structures than humans do.
Wow.
And you can see the similarities once you actually dive in a little bit more. Orcas have accents the way human beings have accents. So the orcas of New Zealand speak in a very different tone than the ones in the Pacific Northwest.
That's so cool.
Just as the people in the Pacific Northwest sound nothing like the Kiwis.
Yeah.
It's different. They have different appetites. People in Japan have different diets than the ones in Kansas.
Right.
It's just how it works, even though we're the same creature.
Right.
It gets expressed different.
Right.
They teach their young skills. So if you look at orcas, especially off the coast of Chile, they are seen in a very strange hunting pattern. They will beach themselves to grab a seal and pull it back. But that is learned and practiced behavior. The way that we practice skills like guitar or basketball or anything else. A mother or a grandmother, their matriarchal societies, will teach the young, and they practice catching kelp. So they beach themselves, grab some kelp, and bring it back. And they do this over and over and over again until they're ready to try and catch a seal. And so when you look at the animal kingdom, you kind of realize, are they that similar or that different from us?
Right.
And I think that's so beautiful. The more you learn about animals, the more you learn about humanity.
Right.
And I think that's just beautiful to see.
That is so cool. The dolphins have a sense of self-awareness too, right?
An extreme sense of self.
They pass the mirror test, right?
Yep.
So the mirror test, like I think I saw a video on this where like they like at SeaWorld or something, they put a mirror in and then they mark the dolphin like with a Sharpie or something, and the dolphin swims down and like checks it out.
Yep.
Are cetaceans one of the only other animals that have a sense of self like us humans?
No, there's plenty.
No, there's plenty.
Elephants, for example.
Elephants.
Elephants are, there's a classic saying, the elephant memory. So
Right.
elephants have eidetic memories.
Wow.
So they will remember the color of your shirt from 40 years ago.
Jeez.
If you pissed off an elephant literally like 5 decades ago and you show up gray-haired with a different colored beard, it'll know you.
No way.
And it will hate you.
That's nuts.
And so some animals
Yeah.
are actually more intelligent
yeah.
than humans
Right,
are in
right.
different ways.
That
It's
makes
just
total
expressed different.
Yeah.
So we have opposable thumbs. The superpower of humans is we can manipulate nature to create our environment. I mean, look at us. We are on a deck
Yeah.
that is made of wood
Right.
that had to be chopped from trees, that then had to have nails extracted from the earth. We are such remarkable manipulators of environment. They don't have that.
Right.
So their intellect shows up in different ways.
Right.
And so dolphins and cetaceans, you could make the argument, are actually more intelligent than us in
Right.
some ways.
Right.
In language, their language structures are more complex. The neocortex, which is responsible for language, is more developed in cetaceans. In sperm whales, for example, it is estimated that they have 5 million years more of language development than we do
Whoa.
humans. And so they not only can communicate from a distance like this, but across oceans.
Right.
Like, that's how insane it
That's
is.
so cool.
And if you look at orcas, for example, I have this theory about them which always shocks people. But there's never been a recorded attack of a wild orca on a human being. There is a rumor from the 1970s in California, not confirmed. All of the attacks of orcas are on humans in SeaWorld, where you basically have this caged animal in the most horrific of circumstances, and it gently drags a trainer from its ankles to the bottom of the pit and drowns them. It could chomp you in half.
Right.
It doesn't. It gently gets rid of you. So here's my theory on why orcas don't attack humans.
Let's hear it.
So cetaceans can communicate through a series of clicks, sonar, and it's almost in simple terms like X-ray vision. And so because the ocean is so dark, eyesight is actually not the best tool the way it is on land, where you can observe and see everything. Well, at night in the ocean, you're not seeing shit, so you have to rely on other senses. And so in the front of most cetaceans' head, it's most prominent in belugas, is an area called the melon. And the melon is basically where sound or frequencies are received, and it transmits an image of its surroundings. But here's the thing. It can transmit a X-ray 3D image. So orcas in South Africa, there's two of them, starboard and port and starboard. They eat great white sharks, full-grown great white sharks, but they are surgical with their precision of just the liver. And so you might ask yourself, like, how is this so smart that it can identify the liver from the outside because it can see inside? And so when human beings are in the ocean with orcas, it can see the inside of you. It can see a few things. It can see that we do not have a lot of fat. We do not have a lot of muscle.
And
so
not a lot of organs.
we have organs, but they're kind of small.
Lot,
we are not nutrient dense compared to seals or compared to fish or other things that need blubber to stay afloat or to keep them warm in cold temperatures. So they see that, but they also see our brains. And I believe that orcas can see how similar our brains are to theirs. I think they have a better understanding of us in the water than we do of them. And that's the type of intelligence that humans aren't capable of experiencing, but it's out there. The way that I describe intelligence to people, especially in the animal kingdom, or if you really want to get broad with it, outside of Earth.
Right.
When you look at a goldfish that's existed its entire life in an aquarium, it doesn't know that the ocean exists. It doesn't know that ponds exist. It doesn't know about New York City. It's completely outside of its scope of awareness. It's impossible for it to ever learn those things even. Well, what about higher forms of intelligence above us that look at us the way that we look at goldfish?
Yeah.
And I think of that with animals.
Yeah.
Where they don't even, like, because we can't communicate through sonar or echolocation or those sort of things, that, like, there's a side of life on Earth that we can't experience.
Totally.
And it's a topic that always fascinates me.
It's so good, and it that deepens my spirituality, my connection, relationship with God, because you're just like, I mean, how can you not, like, look at this intelligent design of the sonar system? And it's like, what do we not know that we don't know about? Like, to your point, Bodhi, the dog that we've got over here, thanks to Carly, like, we can't explain to Bodhi what the internet is or the TikTok strategy. Like, we don't have the right forms of transmitting and receiving the vibrational frequencies of communication with each other. Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there with whales.
We're getting there with whales. How so? Like,
so, okay, this is cool.
Let's hear it.
So marine biologists are actually using AI to do the first interspecies communication.
Whoa.
And they're testing it on orcas, and they're testing it on other whale species and dolphin species. And so what they do is they essentially have a sonar that goes underneath the boat, and it studies the communication patterns of the pods, and using AI, it can identify specifically what the patterns are, and it will broadcast to them, and then they will broadcast messages back.
Holy shit.
And so the plan is, over the next couple years, we actually believe that we can use AI to translate actual interspecies language.
Oh my goodness.
And understand what they're trying to communicate to us in English. Take whale.
Yeah, whale
and
talk.
turn it into human.
Wow.
We're on the cusp. I'm telling you, it's coming in the next couple years.
You thinking that short in the next couple years? whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's why I love cetaceans as well, is language.
Yeah, and they're going to be the breakthrough, because then it's like, yeah, well, I mean, then how can we translate that to dogs and the communication with dogs? Or like, what are the other ways that we communicate with dogs that we can, like, to just have, you know, in your earpiece or your neural link, if you do that, like the dogs of like just talking to your dog or having conversation. I hope that, like, on a meta level, like as people see that AI and all of the path that we're heading on is this dark, dangerous thing, and it's going to be the end of humanity and civilization. Yes, okay, that's one perspective, and I could see that. I choose to believe through things like you're saying right there, give me such hope that something like that will be such a breakthrough for humanity and the connectedness that we feel to each other and to the planet and to our world, that like something like that can save humanity in a big way. And I believe that's why it's important that we are utilizing these tools for good, and it's up to us to be able to do that. But like something like that can have massive repercussions for, like, think about how that could shift like if we're communicating with the whales, like think about how much that would change, as if we need more reason to have compassion and understanding for them, which we shouldn't, but like think about how much that could influence people's compassion or understanding, interconnectedness or relatedness to like the world and God and this creation, right?
It's very interesting to think of. I look at technologies, whether it's social media or AI, they're neutral beings.
Yeah.
And they're extreme, and they could operate in the extreme of being beneficial to the user or horrific to the user.
Right.
But that's where I get into more of the subject of, I believe in radical responsibility for the individual on social media use, on AI.
Yeah.
But that's also not like a fully fledged opinion that I'm open to changing.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tool though, like all these things. It's a hammer. You can build this deck, or you can rip the deck down with it. It's the same tool.
Or you could, like smash windows.
Right. Or you could just sit there and hit yourself in the head with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hitting ourselves in the head with the tool. Yeah. Oh, Jamey, man. Wow, I'm so lit up from this conversation.
What a beautiful chat.
What a beautiful chat. And I sit down, knew there was something good that was going to come through. And thank you. I mean, the full spectrum. I mean, we're talking about the full spectrum of living a wild life. And I feel like this conversation has been such a reflection of that, and a reflection of you and the depth and your willingness to share about losing your best friend at 18, 19 years old, and the experience of going through death and grief, and how that led to some of these beliefs that you formed, and this experience you have with life, to the animals and the animal kingdom. And I can't wait to jam more with you on that. And so thank you for showing up with your presence. Thank you for having the courage to follow your ikigai, for being able to honor your natural talents and your ability to communicate and to orate and to follow your passions within this wild life. Thank you for the courage of that, because that lights me up, and that's going to impact a lot of people in that way, not just in the actual impact through conservation that you're going to make, but through the permission you're going to give other people to do that same thing. So I want to thank you for being here, for being on the show, and I can't wait to see how we can support each other and where this relationship goes. And until the next time that I have you back on the podcast, it'll be very fun. So until
I'm
next
excited,
time.
and thank you so much for creating the space to be unapologetically me.
Bingo. Much love, brother. Thank you.
Let's go.